switch to make it just...
Well, he would hit the switch.
Okay.
I mean, it would show on the all of the monitors, and the jury could see it.
But will it show on Mr. Mayo's
Yes.
before it comes to the jury?
It will. No. I think we have the ability to just show it on certain monitors.
All rise.
I texted him. Yeah, it's just not new technology.
All right, please be seated.
Morning, Detective Mayo.
Good morning, sir.
Now, Detective Mayo, you were the lead detective in this case,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
and you put a great deal of work into it.
I would say so. Yes, sir.
You interviewed a number of people.
Yes, sir.
You interviewed Jaborian McKenzie. You interviewed him on 3 occasions.
I believe that's correct. Yes, sir.
On July 7th, 2013,
That's approximate correct.
and that was recorded.
Yes,
On September 9th, 2013,
I believe that's correct.
and that one was also recorded.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then about a year later, on July 14th, 2014, and that interview was recorded.
Yes, sir, you are correct.
And you also interviewed Mac Prelude.
Prelude. Yes, I believe that's the way it's pronounced. Yes, sir, I did.
I believe that was only on 1 occasion.
It may have been more than once. I want to maybe say 2.
Ms. Lackey, 26th,
Try to refer to her as...
the alleged victim. Your Honor.
Yes.
I do apologize.
All right.
The alleged victim,
Yes, sir.
you interviewed her in the matter initially on June 26th,
Yes, sir, you are correct.
and then you talked to her again on June 27th.
On the 27th, yes, I did.
Okay, and that was after you'd interviewed Mr. Vandenburg.
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay. Now, and you also talked with her interviewed her on July the 8th.
I believe that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. And that was actually a video recording that was made.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, on this medical legal exam, on the MLE kit, shorten it up a little bit, you were the one who actually retrieved that from the hospital after it was completed.
The nurse practitioner sealed it and then handed it straight to me.
Okay, and that was Ms. Parnell?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do with it after that?
Went to my office where I completed the necessary paperwork to be able to turn it into our property room. Then I turned it into our property room.
Okay, and you know when you turned that in?
It was in the evening hour, late evening by that point.
Okay, was that the same day or a later day?
No, it was the same day.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now, I want to talk to you about the execution of the search warrants on June 28, 2013.
Yes, sir.
You had several of those.
I did.
You had one for room 213, which was Mr. Vandenburg's room.
Correct.
You had one for Mr. Batey's room on the 6th floor.
Correct.
And you had one for Mr. Banks' room.
Yes. He shared a room with Mr. McKenzie.
Yeah, and they were roommates.
Yes, sir.
And you said earlier that you were taking photos during your execution of these search warrants.
Yes.
And I want to show you a photo. We can pass that up to him. Do you recognize that photo?
I do.
And you took that photo?
I did.
And that is a picture of the drawer in Banks and McKenzie's room.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if we can publish it to the jury judge in a bit, we'd ask that be entered as an
All right,
extra.
that would be number 22, and you could put it on the screen over there.
I'm technologically challenged at times, Judge.
Is it on? It is? Well, I'm sorry. It should come up momentarily. It's up now.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. Now, in that photograph, I want you to look up the upper left-hand corner there.
I believe it's upside down. Needs to be. There you go. Yes.
I can't see it. I don't have a monitor up here, but in the upper left-hand corner of that, in that drawer,
Yes.
there is a Magnum condom wrapper.
Correct.
At least, I mean, it's a Magnum condom.
That's what it appears to be.
Wrap.
Yes.
And then also in that little black fold-up thing that you see there, there are a number of other condoms there. You see that there's a Trojan,
You are correct.
and there's other condoms there that have the similar cover that the one in the upper left-hand corner does.
Viewing the picture that it's hard to tell on here, but yes, you're correct.
Okay. And there's also another, I think, a pack of Trojans up there next to that tube of wet jelly, I think is the name of it there. Do you see that?
On my screen, it's so bright I can't tell, but if that's what you're talking about right there, then yes.
But would you like to look at the photo?
Yeah, that would help because it's so bright on the screen. Thanks. Thank you. Yes.
Is that better?
Yes.
And again, this was taken on the 28th.
That you are correct.
All right. And the one thing that's not in there is no condom box, is there?
I do not see one, no, sir.
Thank you, Detective. As far as that goes. Now, again, the camera you were taking these pictures with was not time stamping these photos?
No.
And do you know why that was? Is there?
Most of the time it's best practice that you don't do that because the time stamp could cover up what you're taking a picture of, if that makes sense later. You can't see it on the screen when you take the picture, but later when you go to retrieve that picture out of the camera, that time and date stamp could be covering up what you were actually trying to take a picture of.
Okay.
So I typically do not do that.
Okay. But the camera does have a setting for that, though.
It does.
You could do that.
Correct.
Now, when you interviewed Mr. Vandenburg on June 27th, initially he denied that anything had happened.
You are correct.
And then after talking with him for a while, he opened up and told you what happened in that room.
Yes, he told me.
At one point you asked him about names of the other people.
Correct.
And he told you that McKenzie's name was Tip.
Right.
And he thought that was McKenzie's real name.
That's what he indicated.
And he also told you that he didn't know Cory's last name.
I believe you're correct, yes.
Okay. Now, when you interviewed him, this was after he had been interviewed by Vanderbilt Student Conduct?
Unbeknownst to me at the time.
Okay. But you know it now?
Yes.
Okay. And did you know that he had been interviewed by that there had been like an honor council
I do know that now. At the time, I did not.
Okay. And if he knew any names, it's possible he could have gotten those names from those meetings.
I wouldn't speculate where he got any name.
You would, but you wouldn't even say that it's possible?
No.
Okay. And I didn't mean to ask you to speculate.
Yes, sir.
We've already been over that. Now, when he told you what happened in that room, you believed what he told you?
Not completely, no.
Well, when you said that when you searched the room and the ID team was there, you told them what to look at.
Right.
You told them not to bother with Mr. Prialu's bunk.
Correct.
And you based that on what Mr. Vandenburg had told you.
For the most part, correct.
Right. And would you have done that had you not believed what he said?
I believed most of what he had told me at the time, so I was relying on what I believed, correct.
Okay. But you believed him enough not to collect valuable evidence that may have been on Mac Prialu's bunk.
I do not believe it was valuable evidence.
You don't believe there would have been valuable evidence had there been DNA evidence on Mr. Prialu's bunk?
I had no indication that any crime whatsoever ever took place, even to this day, that on Mr. Prialu's bunk.
But at that time, the information you had was from Mr. Vandenburg.
That's correct.
And you based your decision on what Mr. Vandenburg told you?
Most of it, yes, sir, correct.
Okay. Were you lying when you told Mr. Vandenburg that you believed what he told you?
Somewhat, correct.
Okay. Would you recall 27th, when you interviewed her, after your meeting with Mr. Vandenburg, you told her that you believed everything that Brandon Vandenburg was telling you then?
Yes.
You told her that Brandon Vandenburg was cooperating with you and doing some things to help the investigation?
You're correct.
You told her that she had been sexually assaulted by 3 men?
Correct.
And you told her that you were not counting Brandon Vandenburg in those 3 men?
You're correct.
And you told her that Brandon Vandenburg wasn't real happy about what happened?
You're correct.
I mean, we have Exhibit 7H.
H.
7H, I think. Yes, that's it. If we may place that on the yellow. Now, when you interviewed Mr. Vandenburg,
It's not up, sir. It'll be up in just a second. All right.
when you interviewed Mr. Vandenburg, you told him that you could tell from the videos that he was upset.
Yes.
And you had reviewed the videos before you talked with him.
No.
You had not reviewed the video?
No, just mainly still shots.
Oh, but you had reviewed the still shots?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Okay. And this is one of the still shots you looked at?
Yes, sir, it was.
You told him that he seemed to be crying?
I remember saying he seemed to be upset, yes.
But that is that is the surveillance still that you saw?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
And you told him that you could tell by looking at that he was upset?
Yes, sir.
And you could tell by looking at that he was not happy about what had happened?
Correct.
Now, when you interviewed Mr. Vandenburg also, he was talking about people taking their shirts off. He said Tip took his shirt off because it got water on it.
Correct.
That was one of the things he was supposed to say.
Yes.
Okay. And but you've seen the videos since then, the actual videos?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And Mr. McKenzie never takes his shirt off, does he?
No, sir.
And the one with the shirt off is Mr. Banks?
You're correct.
Okay. So Mr. Vandenburg didn't even know which one had taken their shirt off?
Apparently.
Now, in your investigation, did you gather vital statistic information on Mr. Vandenburg, I would call it, date of birth, for example?
Sure.
And do you recall his date of birth being June 15th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you interviewed him again on June 27th?
Yes.
So just 2 weeks before that, he would have turned 20.
Okay.
Isn't it?
Are you asking me, or?
I'm asking you.
Yes, he would have.
He would have turned 20.
Okay.
And he was 19 when he arrived on the Vanderbilt campus.
Sure.
Now, on there were some cell phones entered earlier, and there was Chris Boyd's cell phone.
That's one of them, correct?
Okay. And Austin Carter Samuels.
That's one of them, correct?
Okay. Did you get videos from either their phone or from Mr. Boyd's phone or Mr. Samuels' phone?
I personally didn't recover any videos.
Okay. Do you know whether any videos were recovered?
No. From those two phones.
Okay. Have they been charged with destruction of evidence?
No, Your Honor, I object to any relevance at this
Well,
point.
Yeah. Not sustained.
Thank you.
Now, the recording of the interview that was just played with Brandon Vandenburg, that was not all of the conversation you had with Mr. Vandenburg that day.
No.
And in fact, you asked him to make a call to Mr. Batey.
We call it a controlled phone call.
Yes.
Yes, sir. You're correct.
And he did as you asked.
Yes, he did.
He cooperated with you.
Yes.
Cooperated with you in the collection of the DNA. Cooperated with you in collection of the DNA.
Yes, sir.
And gave you his phone by consent.
You're correct.
And Mr. McKenzie, Mr. Boyd, and Mr. Banks, you recovered their phones by search warrant.
Who's again? I'm sorry.
Banks, you got Mr. Banks' cell phone by search warrant.
You're correct.
You got Mr. McKenzie's cell phone by search warrant.
You're correct.
And you got Mr. Batey's cell phone by search warrant.
You are correct.
Not by consent.
You're correct.
Now, also in that other part of this conversation, Mr. Vandenburg told you that he thought he could retrieve this video.
He did.
And he told you that he had sent it to a friend.
He did.
So he was even cooperating then. He was going to assist you in getting that video.
Correct.
If I might interject at this point, counsel was asking about the control call to Mr. Batey. The state did not play that because it contains obviously statements by the co-defendant, but we have no objection.
We're not asking that he played, Judge. I was just trying to establish the fact that that was part of his cooperation.
Well, what the state is indicating that may open the door for something. You understand that?
Yes.
All
So
right.
we have no objection, but didn't feel it was appropriate to put it in.
All right.
And again, we're not asking it to be put in. Now, I want to ask you about the going out to Joey Quingio's place out in California when you went to.
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
Chairs here squeak.
Yes.
We've heard about that.
Yeah, I guess.
And going out to Mr. Quingio's place in California.
Yes, sir.
You initially asked him if he had an iPhone 4, if he still had it.
Yes.
And he told you that at first, I think he told you it was at school.
And Your Honor, we're getting into what someone told him.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You're saying.
But there was an iPhone 4 recovered from Mr. Quingio's car.
An iPhone was recovered. Yes.
An iPhone 4.
I believe so.
We have just on the chart.
All right.
Detective Mayo, again, at this interview on June 27th, and we heard it on the audio, that Mr. Banks
He did ask that, correct?
and he was told not to have any contact with her, or not to talk with her at least.
Yes.
Okay. Or if you did, don't tell her about anything that happened.
I don't remember that statement being made.
Okay, well,
but
the jury can remember that.
yes.
Look at that. Judge, we would ask that the photograph of the drawer be passed to the jury.
Okay, well, it's been published, but you have a right to have it passed.
I'm concerned that Mr. Mayo said there was a glare on his screen. I just want to make sure the jury.
You have a right to have it passed to him.
We would ask that.
All right.
That's all the questions I have, Detective Mayo, Your Honor.
All right. Read the rap.
Just very briefly,
It was admitted, right?
yes. If not, we have no objection to it.
Yeah, it was admitted.
Judge, can I go ahead and ask my couple of questions while looking for the photograph?
It was number 22, the photograph. Yeah, it was in.
Okay, where is it?
And no one ever gets it. She just keep it.
Somebody handed it to Ms. Halstead.
Okay.
There we go.
Well, while
You
she's,
can go ahead and pass it to the jury.
okay, that's fine.
Who will be the state's next witness after Detective Mayo?
Felicia Evans.
Okay, all right. All right, Joe Moore.
Detective Mayo, with respect to the question about the search warrants and consent, did you ask for consent for any of the people that you got search warrants for?
No.
Before getting the search warrants?
No, I didn't.
Okay. And did you ever have any reason to go to East Hall?
No.
Okay. Did you view any surveillance from East Hall prior to speaking with Mr. Vandenburg?
No.
That's all, Your Honor.
All right, recross.
We got no further questions.
All right, thank you, Detective. You're excused. Felicia Evans, please.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Good morning, Ms. Evans. Could you please state your name for the record?
My name is Felicia Evans.
Felicia, I'm sorry, Ms. Evans, could you please let the jury know, where do you work?
Currently, I'm employed with the Police Department's Crime Laboratory as a forensic firearms examiner. Prior to my employment in the crime lab, I worked as a crime scene investigator with the department's crime scene investigation unit.
How long did you work with the crime scene investigation unit?
With Metro Nashville for approximately 10 years.
And could you generally describe what does that...
Turn your mic a little bit. That mic, yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, Your Honor. Could you generally describe what that means to be a crime scene investigator?
Sure. As a crime scene investigator, our primary duties include responding to various types of crime scenes. While we're there, we locate, document, collect, process, and preserve any evidence that's found within that scene.
And is that the same thing that people might have seen on TV and shows like CSI and things like that?
It's not nearly as glamorous. It kind of follows the same types of principles in the evidence processing, collection, and searching, but it's not what you see on television.
Could you describe the process of processing a crime scene? How does that actually happen? How are you notified? How do you get there? And then what typically happens when you get there?
So just on a typical crime scene, a call would go out, police would respond to that after the scene was secured, and it was still considered an active scene once it was secured by responding patrol officers. Detectives would arrive, and at that point they would put in a request for the crime scene unit to come out and to assist in processing that scene.
Typically, what's the time frame of you being called out to a crime occurring?
Typically, it's pretty quickly after police have responded and secured the scene, so usually within an hour of the call coming out and police responding, the crime scene unit is requested to respond to that scene.
And did you respond to South Drive, actually the Gillette Hall building in dorm 213 on June, I believe it was 27th of 2016?
Yes, I did.
And could you describe, when you got there, kind of what was going on, what you found?
I was called to respond to the Gillette Hall scene by my colleague, investigator Sharon Tilley. She had been present on the scene approximately an hour prior to my arrival and called for my assistance. She was there assisting sex abuse detectives in the execution of a consent to search on a dorm room.
And Officer Tilley, how familiar were you with her at the time?
We had worked together approximately 3.5, 4 years at the time.
And when you're processing a crime scene, is that something that you typically do alone, or is it done in pairs or multiple people?
Depending on the type of scene, it can be done alone if it's a property crime such as a burglary or an auto theft. But when we get into the more personal type crimes like robbery, sexual assault, homicide, we typically work at a minimum of 2 people in pairs.
And on certain occasions, are you the first crime scene technician that arrives at the scene?
On certain occasions, yes.
And typically, for a scene such as the one that you were at that day, what would the first steps be in that process?
When we arrive on the scene, the first thing we do is speak with the requesting detectives or officers, kind of get briefed as to what's known at the time and what's going on with that particular scene. Then depending on the type of scene, it's decided what type of processing is going to be conducted, what type of documentation, searching, things of that nature.
And what is typically the first step? Is there an order of kind of processing of what would happen first and what would happen last?
Yes, ma'am. So going in order after you're briefed as to what had occurred, we would do an initial walkthrough, an initial walkthrough of the scene just to get kind of a layout of the area, any particular items of evidence that are jumping out to you right then, things that you can note immediately and go ahead and document. Followed by the walkthrough, we would begin typically with photographing the scene because you want to preserve that with documentation exactly the way that you found it before we would go in and start altering anything, before we would start searching, moving items around, processing. In this particular scene, we entered Miss Tilley had been there prior to me and had done the walkthrough with the detectives, I believe. And then at the time of my arrival, I walked through with her a second time, and she had pointed out to me what she had done thus far. And I believe she had just started her photographs and had gotten up to the room photographing the condition that that was in. So she pointed out various items of evidence that were of interest at the time, and we began to mark those items of evidence and then began with other types of processing.
Can you slow down just a little bit?
Yes, ma'am, I apologize.
Do you recall what time you arrived at the scene?
I arrived an hour after her at 3:40 p.m.
And I would ask that this witness be handed some photographs, which I previously showed to defense counsel yesterday. Unfortunately, I do believe they're a little bit out of order, but there are 11 photographs and then also a disc.
Can I see them again, Your Honor, please?
Okay.
Judge Hall is looking at those. I forgot to ask, well, we do want to take the mail to remain under subpoena available for goodness.
All right.
Thank you.
Ms. Evans, you've just been handed a set of 11 photographs as well as a disc. If you could take a look at those items and let me know if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
And generally, what are the photographs of?
These are photographs depicting the crime scene or the area that we were investigating at the time it was when we arrived.
And is that when you arrived to dorm 213 in Gillette Hall?
Yes, it is.
And the disc that was handed to you, do you recognize that?
Yes, I do. This is a disc containing a Paniscan that we performed in the room that day.
And could you explain what a Paniscan is?
Sure. So a Paniscan is a scan that's taken of the room using a piece of equipment. It takes a 360-degree scan. So if you were to take a photograph and lay it out flat, the Paniscan would kind of wrap that image so that you're able to pan through the room in a 360-degree fashion, and it gives you a comprehensive and complete view of what the area looked like at the time.
And the Paniscan, is it a video recording or is it actually an image?
It's just a scanned image.
And could you explain kind of the benefits of the Paniscan and what the capabilities are with photographs that are taken by the ID officers?
So again, the Paniscan allows for you to see a complete 360 view of the area that was documented. It also allows for any still photographs that were taken to be embedded into that actual scan. So you could look while you're viewing the scan, go to a particular area in the room. You can click on that area of interest and it will bring up a closer photograph of that particular area.
And was a Paniscan done of the dorm room 213 on June 27th when y'all were there?
Yes, it was.
And is that Paniscan that you viewed, is that of this crime scene?
Yes, it is.
And are the 11 photographs that you handed, are those linked into that original scan?
I believe they are, yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that those items be entered as the next exhibit. I believe it is 23.
That's correct.
With the photos being A through K and the disc being L.
All right.
And I would also request permission to publish the Paniscan images to the jury.
All right.
Which I do not need the disc. I have it loaded on the computer.
small or the big screen?
We can use the small screens. There's nothing. Your Honor, may I have permission to narrate how I'm opening the file, just in case the jury would ever want to go back and review it?
Okay, please. That'll help.
There should only be one file on the disk. If you click open the first file, there are several files in 2 folders. You click on the output folder. You scroll down to the first file that has start at the end of it, which is an HTML document. You double click on that. You do not have to be connected to the internet, however, it does open in Internet Explorer. A box should pop up requesting that you allow block content. You click on that, and then you should have the image, which is a smaller image. Once you click on this image, there are several.
If this is being introduced through Ms. Evans, we would check to Ms. Norman giving an instruction on how to use it. I think Ms. Evans should be required to explain her knowledge.
Well, I don't know if Ms. Evans has that knowledge. Can she?
Your Honor, I'm not sure. The instructions are purely instructional as to how to open the program.
Right.
It's not testimony.
What often happens is, once the jury gets the evidence, we sometimes have trouble, viewing it. They have trouble viewing it because they didn't operate it previously, and I think that that's what Ms. Norman is doing, Joan Norman is doing, is just demonstrating what needs to be done in order to open the particular file.
Your Honor, please, I would request, there seems to be more pictures or more things on this particular, on what General Norman is pulling up than A through K on a CD, and I just don't know that that the jury needs all of that information that's contained. There seems to be a lot of surplus information that's being pulled up, Your Honor.
I understand that, but we actually have the physical evidence over here, and it should be able to use that.
Well, my question is, does the physical evidence mirror what's being pulled up, because there's surplus information on what's being pulled up?
Well, I honestly don't know. I think that's the question she can answer.
Your Honor, I am not sure what Mr. Boland is talking about regarding surplus information.
He's talking that when you pulled up the file, there appeared to be a number of different things on that page, and whether that was just the information contained here, or was additional information?
It is just the information that's contained within the PanaScan. Okay. There is no additional photographs or images from anything else. It's just the linked crime scene photos. There are 3 scans that are linked together as part of this PanaScan because they did more than one scan. It's all of this room. It's all one thing.
Okay.
Okay. And you have functional buttons at the bottom of the screen. The one on the far right will actually change it to a full screen mode. And Ms. Evans, could you describe what is shown in this first scan?
This is a scan with the equipment placed in front of the entry door into dormitory room 213, and this is showing kind of a 360 view of what the dorm room looked like at the time that we entered.
And for the record, in order to move about the screen, if you click the mouse and hold it clicked, you can pan, which there is a blue box in the corner. Could you describe what that is?
If you click on the blue boxes that pop up throughout the scan, that just brings up another view of that room or a photograph associated with that particular area.
And this box is labeled 2 Movie 2. Could you explain what that means?
So when it says movie, that's just kind of a generic description that the software gives the scans. So it's not actually a movie at all. It's, again, just going to be a 360 image, and that's going to show a second area where the equipment was placed in order to perform a scan of the room, so you get kind of an alternate view.
And this blue box here, I have just clicked on this box, which for the record, this is a copy of exhibit number 1, which is a diagram of Gillette Hall. Could you explain what's shown on this and what the purpose of having this is?
This is showing a layout of the second floor of the dormitory at Gillette Hall on Vanderbilt's campus, and it's showing, I believe it's going to room 214. The actual scene that we responded to, or the area that we responded to, is located in 213, and it's showing the fire evacuation plan and the nearest exit for the occupants of those rooms to take.
And there are 3 red dots on this diagram. I am clicking on the one on the far right, which says hallway. And could you describe what's shown here?
This is a view in the hallway on the second floor, looking down the hall, the wall at the end. If you turn left at the end of the hallway, you would be facing room 213. And you can see the doorway to room 214 to the left of that red dot.
And for the record, the still image is previously introduced, Exhibit 23A. And again, this blue box, could you describe, if you click here, what happens then?
That should take us back to the photograph of the floor plan of that fire evacuation plan.
And I am clicking on the red dot in the middle of the image. Could you describe what is seen here?
So this is standing in that general area where the red dot was located, and you can now have a better view of the locations of room 214 as well as room 213, which is the door to the left.
For the record, this still image is previously entered Exhibit 23B. And I am clicking on the red dot in the middle of this image. Could you describe what is seen here?
This is another view looking directly on at room 213.
For the record, this image is previously entered Exhibit 23C. Ms. Evans, I'm clicking on the blue box that is in the area of the door of 213. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a view with the room 213 with the door open and looking into the room.
And for the record, this is previously entered Exhibit 23D. Ms. Evans, I've clicked on the box that takes us back to the start of the movie, which is the first scan that we saw. And I've now clicked on the link to the second movie. Could you describe what is shown here?
Now this is a view taken with the Panascan equipment placed towards the rear of the room near the bottom bunk bed, showing a view of the front portion of the room where the closets, work desks, and the front door area are.
Could you describe what, if anything, did you do to process this area of the room?
So in this area of the room, we use an alternate light source to kind of sweep into a visual search for any type of body fluids that may have been present. We also swabbed areas on the floor because that was an area of interest for, again, any potential bodily fluid or trace evidence. We collected various items of evidence that we felt like pertained to the situation. And we also processed...
As to we felt, if she's talking, if the witness is talking about other people, I'll ask her to identify the other people refrain from
Okay, the other 2 members of your team.
Yes, sir, I apologize. I'm referring to myself, Investigator Tilley, as well as Detective Mayo.
And could you describe, as you're processing the scene, what steps are you taking and what steps is Investigator Tilley taking?
Again, prior to my arrival, Investigator Tilley had photographed the area and documented it in the condition in which she found it. We then donned personal protective equipment, such as shoe covers when we walked through, as to not, or to limit any type of contamination that we may have brought into the scene ourselves. After searching with the alternate light source, we marked collected items of evidence. We began processing for fingerprints, and we also swabbed the areas of the floor where there was, you can see in the center of the room, there was a large vacant area where several items had been pushed aside.
Which, Ms. Evans, so you can touch the screen and it can actually make a marking. Can you indicate the area that was swabbed?
I have a black screen. Here we go. So the area that was swabbed was this portion of the floor.
And could you describe kind of that area? Was there anything unusual about it to you?
Again, the room itself appeared very disheveled and cluttered. There was a lot of trash, bottles, food containers, clothing, items thrown about. The center portion of the room appeared to have been cleaned, and any items that may or may not have been there were missing, and there were several items you can see just along the walls in the closet, under the beds. Items had been pushed under and kind of cleared.
Now I am clicking on the link that is a blue triangle in the middle of this scanned image. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is a view.
First of all, if you could clear it, at the bottom right of the screen, should clear it.
Just here.
It's not.
It's not on here.
Clear it.
Can't clear it.
He's going to clear it. Well, I thought he was going to clear it. There we go. All right, go ahead.
This is a photograph of a tub or container that was located in the room near one of the desks in the closet, and there was what appeared to be vomitous type material on the bottom of the tub.
For the record, this image is previously entered Exhibit 23E. Ms. Evans, what, if anything, did you do to process this area or this item?
After the material in the tub was documented via the photography, I then collected that by taking a scraping of the substance.
And can you describe what, if anything, else that you did that's shown in this image of the closets and the doorway regarding to processing the scene?
Other than the photography, we did the latent print processing, and the search with the alternate light source. We also collected, you can see 2 towels hanging beside the closet entryways. Those 2 towels were collected as potential evidence.
You just referenced the alternate light source. Can you explain what that is, what that means, and how you do that?
We have a handheld device that we use to search for the presence of, in this instance, bodily fluids. So we use that to kind of scan the area in darkness using the emitted light to scan for the presence of any types of bodily fluids, in particular seminal fluid. We did not see anything, nothing reacted, nothing fluoresced when it was exposed to the light at this point.
And you stated that you collected towels. Can you describe specifically, or is there anything that was collected that's in this image?
We collected the green towel that you see hanging as well as the white towel.
I'm going to ask if the witness used that.
Come on.
You want to look at it? All right.
Ms. Evans, do you recognize the two items that were handed to you?
I do.
And what are those two items?
This first bag contains the light green towel that is seen hanging on the hook, and the second bag contains the white towel that can be seen hanging on the second hook.
And could you describe the process by which those items were collected as evidence?
Yes, so after they were documented via photography, we donned gloves, collected the items, placed them into these brown paper bags so that they're able to breathe, and sealed them with tape and our initials. We also wrote the corresponding information that pertained to the particular incident that we were on, meaning the case number, the location, the address, what the item contained within is, the date and time that they were collected, and the person that collected them.
And the form that's attached where you said you documented the information, do you recognize the handwriting on that form?
Yes, ma'am, I do. This is Investigator Tilley's handwriting.
And again, as you're actually taking the towels and placing them in the bag, is that something that Investigator Tilley's doing on her own, or how was that done?
We both collected the evidence within the scene.
Which, and again, I guess you've identified both of those as to the PANA scan. Your Honor, at this time I would ask that both of those items be entered into evidence with the white towel on the hook, I guess being 24, and the green towel on the hook being 25.
Okay, if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is another view with the PanaScan equipment positioned near the bunk beds, showing the far corner of the room to include a pile of trash, a desk, a tub, the entry doorway, and the closets.
And there is a link that says "to green towel" in the center of the scan. I'm going to click on that. Can you describe what is shown in this image?
This image is showing a trash can that's visible as soon as you walk in the entrance door to the dormitory. It's filled with trash, various bottles, and there were two towels located on top of the pile of trash.
Your Honor, this still image is previously entered Exhibit 23F.
Correct.
And I have clicked on the link that says "to green towel." Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is a closer view of the towel that's seen lying on top of the trash can, and you can see there's a striped reddish orange and white towel underneath the green towel.
Your Honor, this still image is previously introduced Exhibit 23G. I'm going to ask that Ms. Evans be handed another item. If you could take a look at that and let us know if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
And what is that item?
This item is going to pertain to the green, or this is the green towel that you see in the PanaScan that was on top of the trash can.
And do you recognize the same markings as the previous two exhibits?
I do. Again, it contains the same type of markings. The only difference here is the location in which the towel was recovered.
Which, is that the way the bag appeared when you collected the item?
There are additional markings, or excuse me, additional stickers on the bag, as well as additional markings from the State Crime Laboratory, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, where they perform testing, and they've also cut into it, and you can see their seal tape on the bottom.
I would ask that be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is 26.
That's correct.
Ms. Evans, could you describe what, if anything, that you noticed about this area and or any processing that you did specifically related to these items?
Walking into the room, you could smell the scent of urine, and when we looked at these towels a little closer, we determined that one was saturated or had been saturated with urine at one time, and it smelled strongly of urine. We laid both of these towels out and we scanned them with the alternate light source. And
what, if anything, was shown?
We did did not find anything on the green and white towel other than just the strong smell of urine. Excuse me, on the red and white towel other than the urine. And on the green towel, there was an area near the edge that fluoresced and could potentially have been bodily fluid or semen.
I am now clicking on the link that says close up to green towel. Could you describe what is seen in this image?
This is just an even closer view of the green towel located on top of the trash receptacle, as well as the red and white towel located beneath the green towel.
And this still image is previously entered Exhibit 23H. I am going to ask that the witness who has one more item. Thank you. Ms. Evans, do you recognize the item that's been handed to you?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
This bag contains the red and white striped towel that you see in the image below the green towel.
And again, I believe you've already testified kind of about what you noticed about it and what processing was done to that item.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I would ask that this item be introduced as the next numbered exhibit, which I believe is number 27. I am going to click on the blue link that goes back to movie 23, which is the third scan. Could you describe what is being shown in this image?
This is a view of the side of the dorm room when you walk in to your immediate right, showing the bunk beds, desks, dressers, there's a chair, again, the trash bin, the area where the towels were located, television, and various tubs.
And there is a link over the smaller dresser. I have clicked on that link. Could you describe what is shown here?
This is showing that dresser drawer, the top dresser drawer on the left, and the items located on the dresser.
And for the record, this is previously entered Exhibit 23I. And I am clicking on the blue link that says to top drawer. Could you describe what is shown in this image?
This is the top drawer of the left dresser with pulled open, showing the contents inside.
And for the record, this is previously entered Exhibit 23J. And I've just clicked on a blue link that says close-up of items. Could you describe what is shown here?
And this photograph was taken specifically to show the condom box and condom located within the top drawer of the left dresser.
And this image is previously introduced, photograph Exhibit 23K. Ms. Evans, specifically related to the condom box, what, if anything, did you do to process anything within the drawer and that item?
The condom box and condoms were processed for the presence of any latent prints.
And could you explain how that's done and what a latent print means?
Well, the term latent means invisible, so you can't see it with the naked eye. And when we process for prints, we use, in this particular instance, we used a black powder process where powder is applied to a surface with the use of a brush. The powder will then adhere to any potential latent prints that are visible, or excuse me, that are present on the surface of the item that's being processed. When you touch something, you have the possibility under ideal conditions to leave behind a potential latent print, meaning if you look at your palm and your fingers, the ridges that are present on there and the patterns that are present can be transferred onto an item in the form of sweat and sebaceous materials. So the powder will adhere to that pattern that's transferred onto that object, and it then becomes visualized for us to see, and we can then document that, collect it, and turn that in to be compared to any potential individuals.
I'm going to ask that the witness be handed one last item. Ms. Evans, do you recognize the item that's been handed to you?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
This is a latent print jacket or envelope that contains within it latent prints that were recovered from this particular scene.
And could you take those out and take a look at them and describe exactly how many there are and where they came from?
Contained within the envelope are latent print units, chain of custody, as well as the 2 latent print cards that I filled out regarding prints that were developed from the scene and collected. And on the back of the cards are the actual prints that were developed themselves.
And could you describe exactly, did you say there were 2 cards or 3?
There are 2 cards and then a chain of custody card.
And I guess if we can make this a collective exhibit 28 with the chain of custody card being A and the 2 latent prints being B and C, is one of the cards referencing prints that were taken from the condom box?
Yes, it is.
If we can make that B, and then the second card will be C.
All right.
Regarding and Your Honor, may the witness have permission to keep that item while I'm testifying, just so she can look at it?
Not while you're testifying.
No. Hopefully not. While she is testifying.
Sure.
Thank you. And I will make sure that the clerk has the specifics of which item is marked as which letter. In regards to the latents from the condom box, could you describe what information is on that card and what you did?
The card contains the incident or complaint number associated with this particular case. It's got a sketch of the condom box with areas designating the portion of the box where the prints were lifted from. It states that it was from the Magnum condom box located in the dresser drawer, has the date and the time, and my initials that I was the one that collected these.
And does it state exactly where on the box the latent was collected from?
There's a drawing or a sketch that I did showing on the front of the box as well as the back side of the box towards the bottom.
And in looking at the box as well as the items that are still shown on the Panascan, what, if anything, do you remember about that condom box?
Other than we photographed it, collected it with collected the prints that were developed off of it. It was open and there was a condom lying out. I believe there was a box of 12 and there were, I believe, 6 inside of the box.
And did you process any other areas of the room for latent prints?
I did process the floors, the walls, various items of furniture, the door, the tub, just items that were located around.
And did you locate any latent prints in any of these items?
The only other area that we were able to develop latent prints was on the actual door itself, on the interior side of the door to the dorm room.
And I've just gone back to movie 2. Is the door that's shown that's the only door to that dorm room, is that the door frame that you're referencing?
Yes, it is.
And could you describe what is 28C, the latent print card related to those prints?
So again, this is a second latent print card. It's showing that same information as the first with the associated complaint or incident number, the date and the time, me having been the person that filled this out and collected the prints. And this one states that the latents were lifted from the door and the doorknob interior side of the room. Now on the back are the 2 prints that were lifted.
Thank you. If I can have just one moment.
All right.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other questions.
All right, we're going to go about another 10 minutes or so before we break. You're not limited to that time.
Okay, I was just going to ask the court if I probably have about an hour, so I don't know if I want to do lunch or just run.
Well, we're still waiting on lunch. It should be arriving soon, so we'll go about 10 minutes or so.
Well, it's close to noon, but I'm going to say good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm well, and yourself?
Doing well. What's your official title right now?
Right now, I'm a forensic firearms examiner.
Okay. And back in June of 2013, what was your official title?
I was a crime scene investigator.
And what's the difference?
The difference, well, crime scene investigators' duties include responding to various types of crime scenes to locate, document, process, and collect any evidence that's found within. As a forensic firearms examiner, I'm primarily responsible for the microscopic identification and comparison of fired ammunition components back to the firearms from which they may or may not have been fired from. I also do firearm functionality testing. I do muzzle to target distance determination, serial number restoration, and entry into our NIBIN database for cartridge cases.
There was no firearms in this case, right?
Not to my knowledge, no.
All right. So what date do you arrive in June to start your crime scene investigation?
I arrived on June 27th.
Okay. And did you arrive in the morning or the afternoon?
I arrived at 3:40 p.m.
And when you arrive, do you drive or walk? How do you get there?
I drove to the scene, parked my vehicle, and then walked into the dorm.
Did you park right in that circle area of Gillette Hall where the fountain is and things like that?
I believe I did.
You did?
It's been a while, but I believe so.
And did you have to use a swipe key, or how did you get into the building?
I was met by, I believe, Vanderbilt personnel let me into the building. I'm not sure if there was a swipe key or what the security procedure was at the front.
Now, prior to arriving, did you have a briefing of what you were going to go see?
Prior to arriving, I had received a phone call from my colleague, Investigator Tilley, and she told me that she had responded to a sexual assault scene per the request of sex abuse detectives, and that she needed my assistance, but that was all that was known to me at the time.
Okay. When you arrived, did this Vanderbilt person take you to room 213, or did you go all by yourself?
I believe I was escorted. Again, I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. And you wrote a report in this case, right?
I did.
And that's not contained in the report, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. And who was that when you got to the door of room 213? Was that door open or closed?
At the time I was there, the door was closed when I initially arrived.
Okay. And was there anyone outside the door when you initially arrived?
Investigator Tilley and Detective Mayo.
Was anyone inside?
Not at the time of my arrival, no.
So when you arrived, only Mr. Mayo and Ms. Tilley are there. Is that correct?
There were some other individuals, I believe, with Vanderbilt. I don't know who they were, but they were not in the actual scene.
Were the students there that belonged to that room, do you know?
I recall seeing Mr. Vandenburg in the hallway on a few occasions.
Okay, where was he when you arrived? About where?
I did not see him when I arrived.
Okay.
I just saw him at different times during the...
Okay, so when you arrived, you had different people from Vanderbilt University. You had Mr. Mayo, Detective Mayo, and you had your colleague, Ms. Tilley. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And were they in front of the door, or were they down the hall like where room 214 is?
We were congregated in the hallway near or in front of the area of room 214.
Okay. In that larger area, correct?
Correct.
Now, when you indicated that you wear gloves and booties, you said that just a few minutes ago, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you carry anything with you from your car up to room 213?
I believe the only thing that I carried with me was my latent processing kit and bags and evidence tape for collection of any evidence that was found within.
Okay, what's in your processing bag?
In my processing bag for latent prints,
Well, whatever you took there as a processing bag, what was in that bag?
it includes different types of brushes, a metal wand for magnetic powder. It includes black powder, magnetic powder. It includes tape, the latent print cards, the white cards that I showed you earlier, as well as the envelopes.
Do you also have these gloves that you put on?
Not within the bag. They're located in a box.
Okay. Did you bring that box, or did someone else have it?
There were gloves already present as Investigator Tilley had been in the scene.
Okay. So Ms. Tilley had been in the room before you got there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you know if Mr. Mayo was in the room previously to you getting there?
I believe he was, yes.
Okay. And when you arrived, did you put on those gloves and booties?
I did, yes.
Okay. Did Ms. Tilley have those on that you saw?
She put them on again to re-enter the room the second time when I went in.
When you say again, do you see her take them off, or are you just assuming she had them on?
I know she had them on because we had a bag set up for our trash or our used items, our used gloves and shoe covers to discard of each time we entered and exited the room. So she was the one who actually handed me the pair of shoe covers to put on before making entry.
Did Detective Mayo, or Mr. Mayo, have gloves and booties on?
I don't recall.
Did you, after you processed room 213, did you process Mr. Jake Bernstein's room in 214?
No, sir, we did not.
Were you given any information that the alleged victim was in
Objection,
there?
Your Honor.
I'm just covering her investigation order.
Honor, I object to hearsay.
Right, I know what you're objecting to. You have to just rephrase your question. All right.
Did you process room 214?
Objection, Your Honor, that's been asked and answered.
Yes, it has, and she said no. All right.
I didn't know if I had said Mr. Jake Bernstein's room or room 214, so I was just...
Well, yeah, I understand, because I think you may have said Bernstein.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Did you process any rooms on the 6th floor?
No, sir, we only responded to 13.
Okay. So you did not accompany the lead detective in this case, Mr. Mayo, to process any rooms on the 6th floor?
No, we did not. Again, he had a consent to search that was specific to room 213, and that is what he called us to assist with.
Did you have any discussions, you, just yes or no, so I don't get an objection as to hearsay, okay? Did you have any discussions with Mr. Mayo about rooms on the 6th floor?
I did not, no.
Now, did you have a camera with you?
I had a camera with me, but I did not make use of it in this situation, as Investigator Tilley was responsible for the photography.
Now, as you're a CSI, right, like that crime show?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, at your CSI headquarters or department or whatever you call that, do you have numerous cameras there that you just, when you go out, you sign them out and take a camera with you?
No, we're all assigned a camera.
Okay. So you have a specific camera assigned to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I assume all the other crime investigators have the same, a camera assigned to them, correct?
Yes, they do.
And that stays with you all the time?
It stays with you in your vehicle. When you go home, it comes with you inside.
When you got to the scene, did you see Miss Tilley's camera with her?
I believe it was situated, or the case that her camera comes in along with all of her lenses and flashes and various items was situated outside in the hallway.
Did you see Mr. Mayo with a camera?
I don't recall if he had a camera or not.
Now, does your camera have a date and time stamp so you know if you would take a picture? Your camera?
My camera? Yes, sir.
Is that always on?
Yes, per our procedure, or per the crime scene unit's procedure, the date and time stamp is on.
And what's the purpose of a date and time stamp, in your opinion?
Just to, like it says, to date and time when exactly that photograph was taken.
When you and you indicated that Miss Tilley was taking the pictures.
Yes, sir.
Did you inquire of her whether her date and time stamp was on?
I did not.
But it's your procedures and policy to have it on. Is that correct?
It's on in the sense it does not print out on the photographs themselves, but it's within the information of that photograph. You can look that up and see what day and time, as well as what camera settings were used to take that photograph.
So if you took a picture and gave me a picture, and I looked at it, I wouldn't know what date and time you took that picture. Would that be a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, yes.
So I would have to come to you, and you would tell me what date and time you took that picture. Is that a fair statement?
We would print out the information pertaining to the photographs at your request.
Okay. So if I said, I need to see this, you would print it out for me, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that in chronological order?
Yes, sir. The images, the camera itself, the equipment assigns a chronological number as you take the photograph, so that follows a certain sequence. And then those date and time stamps pertain to that particular image number.
Can that time sequence be manipulated, like you take photograph number 18 and move it up top to number 1 or anything like that, or does it come out and you can't manipulate that?
The way, I don't know with any camera, but the way that we operate with our cameras, the photographs are downloaded to a server and they cannot be manipulated.
And I should have asked you this before we started getting on. What was your assignment when you arrived there? Since you had Miss Tilly there, okay, what was your assignment?
It wasn't necessarily an assignment. She had called for assistance to help with Detective Mayo's search of the room.
And in your department, how many CSI agents are there?
Currently...
No, back then that's a good question. 2013.
We usually operate about 15, but that's to cover every day and all 3 shifts.
Now, when you arrived, did someone brief you there? Just a yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And who briefed you?
Investigator Tilly, and I had a brief conversation with Detective Mayo.
So you got briefed by Miss Tilly, who works with you, and Detective Mayo, correct?
Correct.
At the same time, or were you in different areas when that happened?
It was at the same time. We were all congregated in the hallway outside room 214.
And the other Vanderbilt individuals who were there with you, did they join in the briefing?
No.
And at that point in time, were you given information about what occurred in that dorm room 213?
I was given limited information, yes.
Okay, did you have a notepad with you to take down, so if someone told you something happened in this area or this area, that you could remember when you were doing your crime scene investigation?
Yes, we do.
And who told you the specific areas where to look, if anybody?
Detective Mayo.
Did Miss Tilly offer any information to you on that issue?
She offered to me the information regarding what processing she had done at that time and any items of evidence that she had located within the scene.
So she had processed the room prior to your arrival?
She had photographed the room and she had done the initial walkthrough of the room prior to my arrival.
But she didn't actually process any evidence. Is that fair?
That's fair,
That you
yes.
have knowledge of, correct?
Correct.
And after your briefing, were you looking for specific items of evidence?
We were looking in general areas for any type of potential evidence relating to a sexual assault.
Okay, so in your knowledge, what were you looking for?
Well, responding to a sexual assault scene, you would look for things like condoms, bodily fluids, to include blood, seminal fluid, vaginal fluid, latent prints, areas that the assault may have occurred at this particular scene. The floor was of interest, as well as the bottom bunk.
Did you find any blood?
No, sir.
Your Honor, do you want to stop here? I don't know if lunch is here. Right?
It's not here yet.
Okay, just checking. I don't want them, when you're hungry, you're hungry.
Well, I have someone.
Okay.
It's not for me anyway.
Now, have you, were you informed when you arrived that the room had been cleaned at all?
When I arrived, no, I was not informed that it had been cleaned.
Put something up.
Well,
Oh, no, sorry. I'd like to call that next in line. Have you seen that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if I may publish that on the...
Okay. Can she identify what it is?
Oh, okay. What is that, ma'am?
This is a photograph depicting various areas of the dorm room floor in kind of the middle cleared out section, areas that we swabbed for any potential bodily fluid evidence. We put down stickers just to kind of designate the area that the swabs were taken in.
And did you put those stickers down?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, so I'm going to...
All right. All right.
Let me start once correctly on Mr. Vandenburg is desperately.
Okay, I mean, we can stop at this point. It's about 5 minutes after 12, 1 hour for lunch, all right?
All right.
We'll be in a lunch recess till 1:05 p.m. Well,